It's our folklore. More has been written about it in prose and poetry than anybody else's folklore. And it's more loved around the world.
Somebody told me you were in the building, and I didn't know you were going to swing in here. It was very nice of you.
Well, I was doing that Dean Martin roaster, toaster, whatever you call it. I've been on Merv Griffin 2 or 3 times. I've been on with Carson.
They treat you
Trying to think, yeah, I'll give it back.
Do you?
Yeah.
John Wayne, an iconic figure of masculinity during his era, has continued to be a subject of speculation regarding his S.O. Various pieces of evidence have led some to hypothesize that he may have hidden his homosexuality behind the carefully crafted veneer of manliness imposed upon him by Hollywood's elite. Some people argue that this possible ambiguity may have played a significant role in his decline. Nevertheless, delving deeper into the life of this legendary figure reveals a multitude of facets that make his story even more intriguing.
When I land, it'll hurt. I'm gonna ride you till you can't stand up. But when you do stand up, you're gonna be Marines.
John Wayne, a Hollywood legend, carved an enduring legacy as one of the industry's most successful and recognizable actors. With a filmography encompassing nearly 180 titles, he clinched the Best Actor Oscar for True Grit in 1969 and boasted a box office track record surpassing $700 million, unrivaled by any other performer of his time.
Where is the girl, Ned?
She was in wonderful health when last I saw her. I can't answer for her now.
You'll answer for her now. Where is she?
Beyond his commercial success, John Wayne transcended mere stardom. He became an iconic figure and a role model for American and global youth. He embodied qualities of moral fortitude, physical courage, and unwavering determination. His career spanned nearly the entire history of Hollywood, commencing with silent films in the 1920s and culminating in his remarkable performance in The Shootist in 1976.
Doc Hostetler.
John Bernard Books.
You remember it?
The newspapers occasionally remind. What was it, 15 years ago?
The American Film Institute ranked him 13th among the greatest male stars of all time, while a 2007 Harris poll consistently placed Wayne third among America's favorite film stars. His movie, The Searchers, earned the title of the greatest Western of all time by the American Film Institute in 2008.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm no stranger to this podium. I've come up here and picked up these beautiful golden men before.
Even decades after his passing, John Wayne remains the most enduringly popular actor in history, casting a long shadow over Hollywood. His epitaph, written in Spanish, fittingly reads, "He was ugly, he was strong, and he had dignity." But where did he come from, and what made him achieve milestones? Born Marion Morrison in Winterset, Iowa, not far from my hometown, John Wayne's early life was marked by a desire to escape the tumultuous marriage of his parents and to earn his mother's affection, a goal he would never attain. Despite being a chronic overachiever, he faced financial struggles during his college years at USC, working as a server to support himself and his frat brothers. His journey to stardom was a classic story of someone drawn to the allure of Hollywood, a place where social outsiders could find opportunity and fluidity. "I've been working all day on the boy's room," John Wayne said. "The boy got it into his head that he wanted a bunk bed. We tore out this wall here and pushed it back. You can see the original boundary on the floor there, and we're going to put the bunk right in here, and there'll be a goddamn porthole in the wall." Marion, who later became synonymous with the name John Wayne, took his time in transforming into the iconic figure we know today. Through countless appearances in B-movies, he honed his unique speaking style and consciously crafted a signature walk marked by swinging shoulders and hips. Wayne's ambition led him to stay in Hollywood during World War II, when many male stars joined the military. In a time when the industry lacked male stars, he tirelessly churned out films, often portraying the quintessential American fighting man, a role that no actor embodied better.
American opportunity has no limits. Has been known to knock more than once. How about you very young people who see a tough life ahead?
John Wayne's distinctive voice and mannerisms are so easily imitated that it's easy to overlook his incredible talent as a screen actor. In his most ambitious roles, such as in Red River, Rio Grande, The Searchers, and Rio Bravo, he delivered exceptional performances. Even in routine pictures, he commanded the screen effortlessly, often through understated actions.
He's here.
Well, what do you know? Striker.
Hello, Thomas.
Thought you were in the first.
I was.
However, he began his journey in the world of entertainment after a promising football career came to an abrupt halt due to a serious ankle injury in 1926. During his college years, he supported himself by working part-time as a prop man at local film studios, where he developed a close friendship with the budding director, John Ford. Ford played a significant role in Wayne's early career, offering him walk-on roles in his movies in the late 1920s. It was Ford who ultimately recommended him for the lead role in the 1930 Western The Big Trail, a film that prompted Fox Studios to change his name to John Wayne.
Cut through all the hypocrisy, the phoniness, and get right to the most important.
The Big Trail failed at the box office primarily due to its use of a new widescreen format that many theaters couldn't accommodate. Despite critical acclaim for Wayne's performance, the 23-year-old actor had to put his movie career on hold for the next decade, dedicating himself to learning the ropes of his newfound profession. During this time, he appeared in over 60 B movies, with a particular focus on westerns like Texas Cyclone, Haunted Gold, The Man from Utah, Born to the West, Santa Fe Stampede, and Red River Range. Wayne honed his riding, roping, and gun handling skills while consciously crafting his distinctive voice, walk, and acting style to stand out among the influx of actors flocking to Hollywood.
I'll give you rats just exactly 10 minutes to get out of town. And if you ever show up around here again, I may not be so generous.
In 1939, John Wayne had the chance to demonstrate his talent in a breakthrough role when John Ford cast him in the landmark Western Stagecoach. The film not only redefined the Western genre, but also showcased Wayne's acting versatility. His portrayal of the escaped outlaw known as the Ringo Kid, who embarks on a treacherous journey through Indian Territory aboard a stagecoach, garnered both critical acclaim and financial success, propelling John Wayne to the top echelons of Hollywood stardom.
Second day on the picture, there's quite a big scene going on in which I have one line toward the end of the scene. In the meantime, to keep me busy.
Throughout his long career, Wayne frequently collaborated with Ford, appearing in various films, especially westerns like Fort Apache, She Wore a Yellow Ribbon, Rio Grande, The Searchers, and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, as well as war movies such as They Were Expendable and more conventional dramas like The Quiet Man. During the early 1940s, Wayne co-starred with Marlene Dietrich in a series of films, further solidifying his popularity with the public. He faced criticism and accusations of draft dodging during World War II, although he was actually exempt from military service due to his age and family status, classified as 3A. He made significant contributions to the war effort by starring in films like The Fighting Seabees and They Were Expendable, with many wartime veterans crediting his movies as a major influence on their decision to enlist. Wayne also made frequent visits to war zones during World War II, boosting the morale of the troops.
Well, by now I've made my point, or I never will. Oh, there's one other thing. Every man and woman or child I've ever known, met, seen, or heard of once.
After 1945, Wayne continued to build on his image as a tough, morally upright figure and became an aspirational symbol of masculinity for American men. He was a self-aware product of the industry, knowingly participating in his own packaging. His popularity soared in the late 1940s as he diversified into different film genres, including World War II thrillers like Back to Baton, Sands of Iwo Jima, and costume action dramas like Wake of the Red Witch, in addition to westerns like Angel and the Bad Man and the classic Red River.
There'll be no quitting along the way, not by me and not by you.
By the early 1950s, John Wayne had become one of Hollywood's top stars. He ventured into film production through his own company, initially known as Wayne Fellows, later renamed Botjack, and produced several successful films, including Island in the Sky, The High and the Mighty, and Rio Bravo. Many film critics consider The Searchers his finest performance, in which he portrayed Ethan Edwards, a Civil War veteran searching for his kidnapped niece, while the film explored themes of racial prejudice and sexism. In 1960, Wayne directed and starred in The Alamo, a historical epic about Davy Crockett.
Step down off your high horse, mister. You don't get lard less than you boil a hog.
As his career progressed, Wayne's reputation for honesty and integrity grew, solidifying his unique position in the minds of both the movie-going public and film critics. He continued to star in a string of popular films including Hatari, Donovan's Reef, The Green Berets, and True Grit, for which he won the Best Actor Oscar.
I was very clever and witty that night, the envy of even Bob Hope. But tonight I don't feel very clever, very witty.
Now, following the success of True Grit, Wayne's career experienced a decline in the 1970s. He appeared in several westerns, primarily leveraging his reputation rather than film quality, including Rio Lobo, Big Jake, The Cowboys, The Train Robbers, and Cahill U.S. Marshal. During this period, he also starred in films attempting to emulate Clint Eastwood's Dirty Harry, tough cop character, though these were met with ridicule due to his age and expanding waistline. Missy Q achieved only moderate success, and Brannigan fared poorly.
I know what you're thinking. Did he fire 6 shots or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all this excitement, I've kind of lost track myself.
In 1975, Wayne starred in a sequel to True Grit titled Rooster Cogburn and the Lady, opposite Katharine Hepburn. However, this film, like its predecessor, received critical backlash. Contemplating retirement, Wayne made one final movie, The Shootist, a poignant tale of an aging gunslinger who discovers he is terminally ill. Wayne's performance in the film was particularly poignant, as he was battling cancer in real life at the time.
Get out of the way.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you, you dumb bastard. I said move it or I'll deliver you something to remember me by.
A master of silence, he understood the power of the camera and was one of the finest reactive actors, comparable to Cary Grant. Wayne was unafraid to convey genuine emotion, particularly in his deep affection for his on-screen partner, Maureen O'Hara, who brought out his tenderness and a sense of middle-aged regret. He once said during an interview, "You get in the middle of a construction project, and hell, you know how it is. Hold on here and I'll see if I can get some coffee or something to drink." In the eyes of Americans, authenticity was less important than delivering a captivating performance, and John Wayne's life, despite personal vices such as excessive drinking and smoking, elevated him to more than just a hero. He became an embodiment of the American idea of the hero. During the mid-20th century, he personified the American century's confidence, though at times this required him to grapple with the dark aspects of our national history, as seen in his role as Ethan Edwards in The Searchers. He said, "All the real motion picture people have always made family pictures, but the downbeats and the so-called intelligentsia got in when the government stupidly split up the production companies and the theaters. The old giants, Mayer, Thalberg, even Harry Cohn, despite the fact that personally I couldn't stand him, were good for this industry." Nevertheless, his fundamental goodness was never in doubt. America's Duke was tough, honorable, quick to share a laugh and a drink, and always prepared to do what needed to be done to uphold justice. He didn't demand your admiration, but rather challenged you to live up to his standards. Over the years, John Wayne's colossal image made him a cultural lightning rod. While he inspired generations of conservative leaders and political figures, his Republican politics and patriarchal demeanor made him a target during the turbulent 1960s and 1970s. Mocking Wayne became a hallmark of a generation's rebellion against authority.
He was like a 12-year-old kid. If he could intimidate you, he'd stay on you, you know? But one day I just couldn't take it anymore.
But there was one thing about him that separated him from everybody. Throughout his life, John Wayne crafted a unique and powerful star persona intrinsically linked with traditional masculinity, prominently evident in his iconic Western roles. His filmography includes notable titles like Stagecoach, The Searchers, Rio Bravo, and True Grit, among many others. This persona often revolved around the dichotomy of men having to choose between family and independence while maintaining their masculinity.
It's hard to keep up my image. I can't imitate all of my imitators, so I'm afraid they won't know who the fella's imitating.
Rich and Gorshin.
A recurring theme in Wayne's films involved characters who initially embodied traits of rugged individualism, loneliness, and conflict with familial responsibilities, but evolved to prioritize family bonds and care for their loved ones. This transformation demonstrated the malleability of traditional masculinity, reinforcing that men could be both strong and nurturing within the context of their families. John Wayne's persona underscored the complexity of masculinity, challenging the conventional notion of the alpha male. While he projected a strong and assured presence, his characters often grappled with balancing their masculine identity with genuine care and thoughtfulness for their family and loved ones. This portrayal resonates with modern audiences who recognize the importance of redefining masculinity to embrace a broader spectrum of qualities and values.
State is the weather. I can't believe it. Man, they got mad at somebody yesterday.
It just went all of a sudden.
However, some individuals have proposed that his display of masculinity might have served as a facade to conceal his true S orientation, which was said to have more feminine qualities, according to insider accounts. As he was achieving global recognition and bringing prestige to the industry, there may have been concerns within the industry about revealing his innate femininity to the world, fearing potential repercussions on the industry's reputation. Consequently, these reports have given rise to speculations about his potential homosexuality. There is perhaps no manlier icon in Hollywood history than John Wayne. More than 40 years after his last film, he remains the cinematic apotheosis of the rugged, principled, red-blooded, tough-as-nails, frontier-conquering, patriotic American male. Not even Steve McQueen or Clint Eastwood can measure up to the Duke. But was Wayne's masculine image a sham? And even worse, an ideal that no man could ever live up to?
You know, when the president's camp won a state that was in the president's pocket by 53 to 47%.
In his recent How John Wayne Became a Hollow Masculine Icon, Metcalfe writes about Nancy Schoenberger's book, Wayne and Ford, the films, the friendship, and the forging of an American hero, which explores the creative partnership of John Wayne and director John Ford. The dynamic duo made 23 pictures together, which Metcalfe concedes are among the best and most important Hollywood films ever made. Schoenberger, an English professor at William and Amp Mary, wrote, "The two men succeeded in defining an ideal of American masculinity that dominated for nearly half a century." She argues that that masculine ideal is still salvageable, honorable even, writes Metcalfe. Stoic, humble, gallant, self-sufficient, loyal. Put that way, who could disagree? Stephen Metcalfe, that's who. He claims that the oversensitive Ford, whom he implies was gay, was terrified of his own feminine side, so he foisted a longed-for masculinity on a supposedly reluctant Wayne, molding his hyper-masculine image. Rather than be inspired by that image, Metcalfe dismisses it contemptuously. Masculinity, like the Western, is a byproduct of nostalgia, a maudlin elegy for something that never existed, or worse, a masquerade that allows no man, not even John Wayne, to be comfortable in his own skin. It's all the rage in gender-confused time to present the Duke's brand of traditional masculinity, stoic, humble, gallant, self-sufficient, loyal, as something false and corrosive. This toxic, culturally constructed mask must be deconstructed, the argument goes, so that men may be free to express their true selves and be more like, well, stereotypical women. Vulnerable rather than violent, emotionally expressive, rather than stoically strong, cooperative, and nurturing rather than competitive and adventurous. Metcalfe blames John Wayne in particular for helping create that mask which has supposedly suffocated countless men ever since, Wayne included.
I think that he'll be a noticeable figure at the convention, let's say.
You're not altogether uncomfortable with Gerald Ford, are you?
Not at all. I just, his camp.
Metcalfe declares that Ford turned Wayne into a paragon no man could live up to. But this is just pure cynicism on Metcalfe's part. Men in all places and times have shown and continue to show their capacity for being stellar examples of manhood. No man, however, is perfect, but that is no reason to invalidate the ideal. An ideal is by definition the highest possible standard, something to strive for but not necessarily attain. When a man strives but falls short, it does not discredit either him or the ideal.
I understood liberal as, maybe I read the wrong dictionary, but I thought that a liberal was a man who would listen to everybody's point of view and then make up his mind.
Masculinity, or at least moral masculinity, is not a status you achieve and then cannot be deprived of, like academic tenure. Being a good man is a process that men must renew each day, an ideal that men must pursue. And like all ideals, sometimes we fall short of it because we are human, because the default state of humanity is moral weakness, selfishness, and sloth. It wasn't enough for Metcalfe, a former speechwriter for Hillary Clinton and a contributor to the left-leaning outlets Slate and The Nation, to dismiss Wayne as a symbol of masculinity. He had to attack Wayne as a symbol of political conservatism as well. He complains that the actor was an ultra-patriotic, unyielding anti-communist, as if there were something wrong with that. He was the apotheosis of a Cold War type, unsentimental, hard, brutal if necessary, proudly anachronistic, a rebuke to the softness of post-war affluence. He was turning, in other words, from an artist into a political symbol. The Wayne that emerges in the book is one that might confuse those with binary views of liberals and conservatives, taciturnity and effusiveness, masculinity and femininity. Fortunately for Goldman, he also seems like a man who would have taken well to the modern age of social networking, maintaining voluminous correspondences with fans, family, friends, and several decades worth of American presidents. He used to write John Ford letters to apologize for missing his phone calls, Goldman notes, as well as some very funny, friendly baiting of character actor Ward Bond, much like you might write an email making fun of your friend who got snookered last night. He also finds examples of Wayne writing fans on topics that range from dead serious advice. In one, he urges a teenage girl not to run away from home to the best spots on LA for authentic cowboy boots, the late nudies of North Hollywood. Undoubtedly, Wayne's staunchly right-wing political views were a source of division during his time, and they continue to be a subject of contention today. Nevertheless, it is probable that he would have been disheartened by the highly polarized and divisive nature of contemporary political discourse. This is especially noteworthy given that many of Wayne's dearest friends and frequent correspondents, such as Kirk Douglas, Paul Newman, and even his mentor Ford, were often aligned with the more liberal end of the political spectrum. There was one point where I was going through his date book from the mid-70s, Goldman says, and I noticed he's having all these lunches and dinners with famed cinematographer and medium-cool director Haskell Wexler, who had never worked on a John Wayne movie before. It struck me as ironic, as Haskell was, and remains, such a fierce Hollywood liberal. Goldman called the 91-year-old Wexler to ask how such politically active, politically opposed men could have been so cordial during the divisive aftermath of the Vietnam War. His take on it was both that Wayne kind of mellowed as he got older, and also that he had a healthy respect and regard for anyone who was as passionate as he was about the things he believed in. Therefore, he could have a fundamental disagreement with you about something very important to him and yet still love you to death. However, John has been involved with men not only in intimate relationships but also in feuds with them, and one of the most prominent was with Clint Eastwood. Naturally, one must assume that at some point, particularly in the former's later years, the two stars shared the screen. Unfortunately, this dream proposition never came to be. These icons, instead of facing off in a pistol duel in the Old West, were entangled in an off-screen feud initiated by Wayne. As the original face of the Western genre, he did not hold favorable opinions of the new gunslinger riding into town in Eastwood.
Who didn't wait for the other guy to draw his gun.
Yeah.
You shot first.
Yeah, well, it doesn't make sense. Why would you wait for somebody?
High Plains Drifter, which follows a mysterious gunfighter Eastwood hired by a local town to defend its people against 3 violent outlaws, is a dark revisionist examination of the cowboy figure that audiences were trained to cheer for throughout the history of Hollywood.
He was working with John Wayne. The villain sneaks around the room, and John Wayne comes up behind him, and he says, then just shoot him.
The outlaw justice that Eastwood's stranger character delivers to the town in the film is satanic, blurring the line between good and evil. Unforgiven, which is considered the pinnacle of revisionist Western myth-making, was not the first time that the star reconsidered the supposed heroism at the heart of cowboy icons. Wayne, a traditionalist in his view of good versus evil and the upstanding role of Western protagonists, was disgusted by Eastwood's depiction of the Old West. After the film's release, Wayne sent Eastwood a scathing letter, stating that it wasn't really about the people who pioneered the West, according to Eastwood. This letter was sent directly in response to Eastwood's proposal to Wayne to star together in a film. Eastwood has never been interested in this shallow characterization and thematic structure. even with his most populous movies. Eastwood's response to Wayne's critiques of High Plains Drifter seems to be self-evident. For Wayne, however, Westerns were not fables. He enacted a duty to champion the purity of America and the pioneering of the Old West. His politics and stardom were one and the same, and the protection of the mythology of the West on screen was a self-appointed duty. His fans also talked about him. One of them wrote, "Wayne was in some great old Westerns that I keep in my collection. He was an actor. Actors and actresses have one thing in common. They were people just like us. You don't have to agree with their politics to admire their skills." Another one added, "Great entertainer, loved this country, believed in its people, had moral values, did not always agree with his politics, but loved his movies. The cowboy still brings tears to my eyes, a real man's man." However, to some extent, people believe that his feuds with the male actors on masculinity and his mysterious S orientation led him towards his downfall.